There are endless videos on the internet of people saying, just send it. Raw action is the answer, yada, yada, yada. And while I see the benefit in just taking raw action in order to build momentum, there is a downside to that. If you're somebody who's never really pushed yourself beyond your limits and decided to pursue some self-directed goals, then more than likely you'll take action for a few days or a few weeks and then you'll just fall back into your old ways. You'll get lazy, you won't follow through. And doing the things you say you're going to do will become increasingly more difficult. This often happens to people who set these deadlines and they start these new habits and routines, but they don't upgrade their sense of self. They don't evolve their self-perception. Their identity is still that from their previous version. So they don't view themselves as somebody who can do the things they say they're going to do. That being said, this is why I'm a major proponent of microdosing challenges. So in today's video, I'll be discussing why microdosing challenges is one of the best things you can do, especially when paired with that inner work of that personal development of you evolving your sense of self. All right, let's begin. So back in 2022, I graduated from university. I had a full-time job lined up already, and I was working 40, 45, sometimes 50 hours a week. All was good, right? But I still found myself with so much free time. So I decided, hey, you know what? Why don't I start writing online? Especially since at that time I'd been in the workforce full-time for like 3 months, 4 months, and I was already beginning to realize like, hey, if this is what it's like to be an adult and work full-time, I'm not about it. I already knew exactly what I needed to do at my job. There were no other things I needed to learn. There was really not much other growth I could do at that time. So I said, hey, let me start writing online. And that's what I did. I told myself, hey, you know what? You're going to build an audience. You're going to build an email list. You're going to connect with people who are like you. You're going to learn from entrepreneurs and try to make this thing work. But what I didn't know was that in going all in, I wasn't fully prepared for it. Because you see, I was somebody who, for my entire life, I would go to school, then university, and I would do the assignments that were given to me. Yeah, sure, from time to time I read books that were fascinating and I pursued my own hobbies, but I hadn't since I was probably 15, 16 years old. So now here I was at 22 thinking, okay, well, I want to start writing online, so let me just go all in and write every single day. So I began waking up at 5 a.m. to write. After 2 hours of writing, I'd go to the gym, I'd come back, shower, eat, and then go to my 9 to 5. Now, things went really well. For about 3 or 4 weeks, I was super consistent, I was enthusiastic, I was eager to develop my skills, build an audience, yada, yada, yada. However, after 4 or 5 weeks, I was completely burnt out. I fell into this spiral where I was like, no, I'm not going to write today. The next day would come, I'm not feeling it today. The next day would come, maybe I should write for a little bit. I'd write for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and then I'd give up because I was just exhausted. The reason why was because I had never done this before. I had never waken up at 5 a.m. to pursue my own self-directed goals. It was, if I was going to wake up early, it was because I was going to go to school or go to work or do something that I had to do. You know, I was on my own journey for the first time in my entire life in this regard. And my expectations were waking up every single day at 5 a.m. It was not sustainable. I know I was trying to be bold and push through and do all the things that most people weren't doing. But what I failed to realize was that I wouldn't even be able to do those things because I wasn't used to it. Look, I'm all for being bold and doing the things you got to do and staying consistent and pushing yourself beyond your limitations. I think that's super important, especially in your late teens and 20s, because what better time do you have to push yourself beyond your limits than right now? However, what I will say is that you're in this game for the long run. And if you push yourself too far to the point where it's unsustainable, then you're bound to give up. You're bound to stop following through with the things you got to do. This is not because you don't have the skills to continue doing the things you got to do, but it's because your identity, your self-perception has not developed along with those habits and routines and things you're trying to do. This is why I'm such a big fan of microdosing challenges. When you have these new routines or these new skills you're trying to develop and all these higher pursuits that are self-directed, it's better to do a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here to stay consistent in the long run, all right? When you can microdose these challenges, along with that inner work where you're working on your self-perception, your identity, and you're understanding more things about yourself internally, then as time passes, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, you'll get to the point where doing that hard work, doing whatever that thing is you got to do, becomes natural. So let's say, for example, you want to get down to 12% body fat with lean muscle. But right now you're about 50 pounds overweight. Now one might say, yeah, you're going to hit the gym every single day. You're going to push through and really feel disciplined with the things you're doing. On the surface, that seems like the right answer. But I would argue that if you're somebody who's never been into the gym, if you've never lifted weights, if you've never done serious cardio, it's better to do that for 3 or 4 days a week consistently rather than pushing yourself beyond your limits 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. Because if you push yourself too far too fast, then you're bound to burn out. And when you burn out, you'll fall back into your old patterns and then you'll completely give up on the things you wanted to do. Your progress will be much slower at first, but the more you do it, the more consistent you are with that sustainable plan, then you can ramp things up, all right? Then it can become a 5-day-a-week thing or a 7-day-a-week thing. So, yeah, along the way, you'll be stacking new habits, you'll be stacking new routines, and you'll be stacking real-world evidence. You can look at yourself if you're trying to build your body. You can look at your work if you're creating a side hustle. You can look at whatever it is you're doing and be like, yeah, I have achieved this because of the work I did on this day and this day and this day over the extended period of 3 to 6 months, all right? So I know this is a bit unconventional when it comes to advice. Most people will say, yeah, just get up, do the hard work, stay consistent, and yeah, I'm all for that. But don't push yourself too far too quickly, all right? You are in this for the long game. You don't need to achieve all your goals, all the things you dream of within a year span, all right? Think in years, think in decades. Take the sustainable approach and you will thank yourself for doing so, all right? So, hope this resonates. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you soon.